Big thanks to MPB for sponsoring this week's video.
This is the Olympus EM5, the 2012 OG model. I'd love to review the OM5, the 2023 OM Systems edition, but alas, I don't have my hands on it. Call me. I got this camera for an absolutely bargain price, and I'll tell you all about that in a bit. But I just wanted to rave a little bit about this tiny camera and all that it has to offer in 2023. To pick one up now, you are looking at around 200-ish quid, which is crazy if you ask me. This camera is stacked for the price. We have a magnesium alloy build quality, proper built like a tank. We have an articulating screen, and we have an EVF. And most importantly and impressively, we also have weather sealing. Find me a camera that is 200 quid that has proper weather sealing, and I will give you a fiver. I don't think they exist, and I think this is the cheapest weather sealed camera you can probably get. Don't quote me on that, but I think I'm right. We also have a 5-axis stabilization as well. So in terms of all the usual suspects that we look for in a tiny camera, this has basically everything that you could want. Now, while it is stacked in terms of spec, it is far from perfect. So let's talk about my experiences with it now. So I think it's safe to say that this is a timeless design. It looks almost identical to the 2023 OM5. It's a lovely pocketable size as well. It's quite on par to the PL6 or the G100 is probably a more accurate comparison. But even though it is tiny, it does have a lovely grip, both on the front and also on the back. It has a really nice raised thumb grip, which I absolutely love, and it makes holding it one-handed for street photography really, really easy. And the on and off button is on the right as well, so you can truly have it one-handed. In fact, the EM5 was quite groundbreaking at the time. I would say it's the first serious Micro Four Thirds camera in the Olympus lineup. They went from this sort of, oh, isn't it fun and kitschy design to, we mean business, we are competing with the big guys. And you can tell how that reflects with the ergonomics, the design, the build quality, and all the innovative features. And let me reiterate, weather sealing. Not one camera in my tiny camera series has weather sealing. Not the Pen F, which is about 4 times the price. Not even the Ricoh GR3X, which is about 8 times the price, and then some. It really is a wonderful feature to have, particularly if you're thinking about using this for travel and street photography, which I assume most people are. When you're looking at sort of this compact design with the smaller lenses, I just think it's ideal for an everyday carry sort of camera. And having weather sealing in that is a little bit of peace of mind. The EM5 for 200-ish quid in 2023 has an EVF. The only one on this table that does is the G100. And this is twice the price, has no weather sealing, is made of plastic, has no IBIS, and it just seems like a no-brainer to me that the EM5 is such a better deal. There is a Mark II version, and then there is the OM5, which would be the OM Systems 2023 replacement. If you did want the same sort of design and innovation but in a more modern body, you can look at the Mark II and beyond. But if you are looking for a bargain, the 2012 one is where it's at. So, story time. You know me and Olympus cameras, I'm a little bit cursed when it comes to navigating them. It's probably a deficit in my brain, nothing wrong with the cameras. But when I first turned this camera on, I bought this from MPB, so I know that it's been checked and has a 6-month warranty. But when I turned this camera on for the first time, the screen was completely blank. So it looked like that. I mean, it's got no lens on at the moment, so you would hope it would look like that, but let's stick a lens on it. So it looked like that, right? So you can take a picture. The EVF works. Wow, I'm on some kind of long shutter speed. So you can take a picture. The EVF works, but the screen was blooming blank. I was perplexed. I searched the forums, I searched YouTube, and I found a video that has like 17,000 views, so it's not even like I'm the only one that's had this problem. That told me the solution. And the solution was, there's a teeny tiny little function button at the side that toggles the screen on and off. Why it does this, I've no idea. And it absolutely scared the crap out of me because it's not an easy to find function button. Olympus, why are you like this? Call me? So we were off to a bit of a bumpy start, but from that point onwards, I have to say I fell in love with this camera. I took it around Manchester for some street photography, and I found it very fun to just sort of turn on and off and walk about with, shoot it from the hip, seeing what I could see, finding what I could find. And I think I got some really nice images on the first day. I then took it to Amsterdam for a long weekend and continued my street photography escapades. And I'm very, very happy with the usability of this camera. There's just once or twice where I got a little bit confused in the menus. It happens. Your everyday functions are pretty easy and ergonomic to use. There is a function button on the top, which I've changed to my ISO settings. If I'm in manual mode, I have shutter, aperture, and ISO, so I have control of everything very, very quickly. That's a great idea. You use the function buttons. There's a couple around, and I think they're well worth using. Some more on the ergonomics. I do love that we have dual dials. This is another thing that the smaller cameras sometimes don't have. So the dual dials, if you don't know what I mean, is you have one traditionally for aperture, one for shutter speed. So you don't have to root around in the quick menus to change one or the other. Now, of all the ones on my table, absolutely none of them have dual dials. The Pen F does that I reviewed recently, which is very nice, but also a bit bigger, 3 times the price. And otherwise, you are generally stuck with having a dial on the front, which you have to turn, or in the case of some, you'll have one dial on the top, and then you'll repurpose the dial at the back. If you're an aperture priority or shutter speed priority, you only tend to use one dial, and it's great. If you are riding the settings a little bit and using long exposures, or if you're tinkering with things a little bit further, the dual dial is worth its weight in gold, and I think it's wonderful that we have that at something this tiny, and they're very tactile and metal and feel very premium as well. So story time about how I found this at a stupidly bargain price, possibly the cheapest camera on this entire table. I got this from MPB. They are the sponsor of today's video, and I love them and use them all the time personally. I've wanted one of these for a hot minute, and they go for around 200-ish pounds. Sometimes it's 210, 230, whatever. On MPB, you have different quality ratings of each of the items, and I managed to find one in excellent condition, this one, but with no eyepiece. And I found it for 159 of the Queen's English pounds. King's English pounds. Oh, anyway, so I jumped at it. Getting one in pristine quality with just one thing missing, I'm like, yes, sign me up. Sign me the hell up. Yes, I'm in. And I managed to find this little piece online elsewhere for £4. So I got the whole thing for £163. £163 thanks to MPB and bargain hunting. You can find wonderful things if you know where to look and if you know what to look for. So check the description of certain ones. If they look cheaper, there's some that might be spares and repairs, but there's some that might have a discount because they don't have an official charger, or they have a third-party battery, or they have a missing eye cup. So thanks again to MPB for sponsoring this video. Check them out below. They are well worth your time, and they do support creators like me. So I love them very much. Let me put my eye cup back on. Feels weird looking at the camera without that. There we go. It's complete again. The one thing that I wish it would have, which would have been the icing on the cake, is live composite mode. That's something that's on the Pen F, and it is on the EM5 Mark II. And if you don't know what that mode is, it's blooming awesome. You need a tripod, and it's traditionally done in low light. You take a base image, and then you leave the camera running. And then it only adds in the changes in the light. So you could effectively leave that running for like 30-40 seconds and not have an overexposed image. Bloomin' love the live composite mode. I really need to get a camera that has it because I do miss it. But what the EM5 has, which is also quite innovative, is called live time mode. So usually if you're taking a long exposure at night, you press your shutter and the screen goes black, and let's be honest, there's a lot of hitting and wishing involved. You kind of see how the exposure turns out and then have it longer or shorter accordingly until you get it right. With live time, what you do is you can see on the screen as it develops. So I was taking some of these photos at night in Amsterdam, absolutely not having a beer at midnight. You could see in real time on the screen when to stop the shutter. Absolutely great, such a time-saving feature, and I think it's well worth exploring if you do get an EM5. So what are your thoughts and feelings on the Olympus EM5? I personally think it's the blooming bargain of the century, especially if you find one at a very good price, though they're at a pretty good price to begin with, to be honest. I think the raw files have got plenty of detail in them, it's stacked, it's in great high quality build quality, and it's just super fun to use. Watch more of my tiny camera series where we go over all the little cameras that are on the table, including even this weird little duder. Oh yeah, check that out. I'll leave some links in the description, and thank you so much for watching.